Oi, gente! Hello, everyone! Bem-vindos! Welcome to this class! Eu sou Virginia, sua professora brasileira. I'm Virginia, your Brazilian Portuguese teacher. Today we are going to talk about irregular verbs. We are going to review and then practice the most common irregular verbs. I'm really here to help you learn these conjugations, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about some patterns that can help you recognize irregular verbs and conjugate them. We'll be here for about 30 minutes. I hope you can stay until the end. And let me know in the chat, where are you from? De onde você é? And qual é o seu nome? What is your name? Because sometimes they use different names, right, for your profile. So let me know your name and de onde você é. Throughout the class, I'll be going to the comment sections to read your comments and see if you have any questions. So whenever I say, oh, I'm looking at your comments now, you can go ahead and ask any questions that you have. Sometimes I cannot read everything, so feel free to copy and paste a question if I miss your question, tá bem? Let me see what else I have to say here. I have some notes in front of me. I also prepared a worksheet with a summary of the lesson. It's actually a worksheet that I prepared for another video, but I think it has everything to do with today's lesson. And in this worksheet, I cover 50 verbs. You'll find the link to download this worksheet in the description below the video. I'm also going to share QR code with you in a minute. So I recommend you download it so you can practice after the class. Okay, we find a table, a verb table, and also many exercises to practice 50 common verbs in Brazilian Portuguese. So let me see who is here. Quem está aqui? Olá, olá. Oi, Russ. Olá. Los Angeles, que legal, bem-vindo. Tudo bom, José, de Phoenix? Loneke, da Holanda, que legal, bem-vindos. Olá, Abraham, do Líbano, uau. David, do Reino Unido. Gabriela, de Las Vegas. Olá, Donna, de Minneapolis. Oi, 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 tudo bom? DJ do Panamá. Olá, oi Bill, de Palm Springs. Mark, do Canadá. David, de Atlanta. Olá, quanta gente! Bem-vindos, welcome, welcome. Muito bom ver vocês aqui. So good to see you all here. Bem-vindos. Yay! So I'll go back to the chat in a minute. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. So this is the QR code if you're watching this on your computer, and you can just scan, but also you can just get the link below the video to download your worksheet with exercises to practice 50 common verbs in Portuguese, 30 regular and 20 irregular. But today's class, we are going to focus on irregular verbs. Então vamos lá. So first, what does it mean when you say irregular? You probably know irregular verbs are those that don't follow a pattern, right? So the regular verbs, they're really regular, they follow the same pattern. So if you learn the conjugation of one verb, one regular verb, that means you know how to conjugate all verbs. So if you learn verb falar, you know how to conjugate trabalhar, caminhar, and many verbs in Portuguese. But when it comes to irregular verbs, it gets tricky because they don't really follow a pattern, so you kind of have to learn one by one. The good news is that there are only a few verbs that we really use every day, so most verbs are actually regular. But we do have some very important irregular verbs that you have to learn. We are going to focus on those today. Okay, so the good news, you don't have to learn hundreds of irregular verbs, just focus on the most common ones and you'll be fine, because these are the ones that we really use every day, okay? Maybe sometimes in a very specific situation you might need a different verb, but every day we always use the same ones. So today we're covering 15 verbs, very common verbs. Let's start reviewing these very basic, very common verbs. And also note the conjugation. You'll have to learn 4 different conjugations for each verb two in the singular form and two in the plural form, right? So we have a very unique conjugation for the pronoun eu, which means I. And then we have one single conjugation for four pronouns, você, ele, ela, and a gente. All these pronouns, or pronoun phrase in the case of a gente, they all are conjugating the third person singular. So você means you, ele means he, ela means she, and a gente means we in an informal way. And then we have the unique also conjugation for the pronoun nós, which means we, and also one single conjugation for vocês, eles e elas. Vocês means you, plural, you all. Eles means they, masculine, and elas means they, feminine. So we have the feminine and the masculine, they in Portuguese, okay? So same conjugation for all these pronouns. So you only have to learn four different types of conjugations, okay? And the singular form is the most common, is the one that we use the most in conversation. So if you're a beginner level student, you can start here. Learn the conjugation for eu and learn the conjugation for você, ele, ela, a gente. And this is what you're going to use 90% of the time. And then once in a while, you need to use these other conjugations as well. Quick review of these very common irregular verbs. So verb ter, I recommend you repeat after me just to practice. We are going to see examples in sentences in a minute, okay? This is just a quick review of verb forms. So verb ter means to have. Eu tenho, você tem, nós temos, eles têm. The pronunciation for the singular and the plural form, tem. Tem is the same pronunciation. There is a small difference in the writing, right? Verb ir means to go. And we use this verb in a lot of, when you're talking about the future as well, right? I will do this, that's what you say. Eu vou, and then we add any verb after that. So this is a very, very important verb. So repeat after me to practice. Eu vou, você vai, nós vamos, eles vão. Fazer means to do or to make, depending on the context. We have one single verb in Portuguese for to do and to make. Very irregular, very useful. We use this verb in so many phrases, right? Combining verb fazer with some other word. So repeat after me to practice. Eu faço, você faz, nós fazemos, eles fazem. So a very common question with verb fazer is what do you do like for a living, right? O que você faz? O que você faz? Then we have verb vir, which means to come, right? The movement from one place to the place where you are. And repeat after me to practice. Eu venho, você vem, nós vimos, eles vêm. Most of the time, instead of saying nós vimos, people will say a gente vem. It just sounds more natural in conversation to use the a gente in colloquial language instead of nós. But you will hear people using nós in some situations. Verb poder means can or being able to or may. It really depends. This is a modal verb. And the translation into English and other languages will vary depending on the context. But the most common translation would be can, like I can, eu posso. In present tense. And then in the past would be I could, né? Eu podia. But let's practice the form. Repeat after me to practice. Eu posso, você pode, nós podemos, eles podem. You don't have to memorize all this right now. Download the worksheet so you can practice and learn this with more time and do the exercises to see examples in sentences, right? Because here it's really hard to memorize verbs this way. I'm just going through this so as a review if you have learned these verbs before, but it's really important to see examples in sentences, and we are going to do that in a minute, okay? And estar means to be. We also have another verb that means to be, which is ser. So ser and estar, they have the same meaning in English. In English we have one single verb, and in Portuguese we have two. is the opposite of fazer, right? In fazer, in Portuguese we have one single verb, and in English you have two, to do and to make. In Portuguese we have one, it's fazer. But when it comes to verb to be, it's the opposite. In English we have just one verb, and in Portuguese we have two. So it's harder for English speakers to learn verb estar and ser, and it's harder for Portuguese speakers to learn how to use verbs to make and to do, for example. So repeat after me to practice. Eu estou, você está, nós estamos, eles estão. I want to, before we do the exercises, I brought many exercises here so we can see examples in sentences and practice together. But first I want to bring your attention to these patterns, because irregular verbs, as I said, they don't have a pattern, but some of them do. We have many verbs that are derived from a base verb, so the conjugation of this group of verbs is similar. So that can really help you conjugate certain verbs, if you remember that. So these are the most common ones. So whenever we saw the conjugation of ter, right? This is a very important verb. You have to learn the conjugation of verb ter, which means to have. We use this verb all the time. But whenever you see another verb that ends with ter, just like ter, remember, oh, the conjugation of this verb is just like ter, because it was formed from verb ter, right? It's derived from verb ter. So the conjugation is the same. For example, verb manter, which means maintain, and conter, which means contain. The conjugation is very similar. So see examples here. Eu tenho, eu mantenho, eu contenho, and so on. There are many other verbs that end with ter. Whenever you see a verb that ends with ter, you know it follows this pattern, okay? Another pattern that you see are verbs that end with por, just like the verb por, which means put. And we have many other verbs that end with por, like compor, supor. So the conjugation would be eu ponho, eu componho, eu suponho, and so on. And this applies to other tenses as well. Today I'm talking about present tense because it's a lot of information, so I'm not covering other tenses. But I have many videos on this channel that also cover past tense and other tenses. And also we see this pattern with verb ver, which means to see, and then we have rever, prever, conjugated the same way. Eu vejo, eu revejo, eu prevejo, and many other verbs. And also same pattern with fazer. For example, refazer and desfazer are conjugated the same way. Eu faço, eu refaço, eu desfaço. So I hope this helps you see at least some type of pattern with irregular verbs. I'm going to go to the chat now to see your comments. I want to give you 2 suggestions to learn more about verb conjugation in general. If you just need to check briefly, oh, how do I conjugate this verb in this specific tense? I highly recommend this website. It's not mine. It's a website called conjugação.com.br. It's very good for just reference. Just go there and quick look the conjugation of a certain verb in any tense, all the main tenses. Very useful website. If you want to learn how to conjugate, not only how to conjugate, but how to use all tenses that we have in Brazilian Portuguese, then I recommend our course, Verb Conjugation Crash Course. I cover all tenses used in Portuguese and all the most common verbs used in Brazil. So this course will really teach you step by step how to use each tense. Okay, because this other website will just give you the conjugation, it will not really teach you how to use the tenses like in real life. So now I'm going to go to the comment section to see if you have any comments or questions for me, and then we are going to do some exercises together, okay? Olá, oi Débora, Gabriele, Robert, Russ. Ah, que bom que você acha útil, thank you. So Rob pasted the link to the verb conjugation course in the chat if you want to take a look. Oi, Damon. Oh, I'm glad you're here today to practice. You know, this requires a lot of practice, so you cannot learn how to conjugate irregular verbs in 30 minutes. You really need a lot of practice. I like doing exercises because it helps memorize, but then you should look for opportunities to practice, right? If you go to a class or if you have a friend to speak with, you can also write in a journal using different verbs to practice. Oi, Angélica. Okay, everybody, let's go to the exercises. I'm really glad you find this class useful. And then I want to know if you have any questions, any specific questions, because I know that this is a really big topic, right? You need a lot of practice, but if you have any specific question, like, for example, is this right? How can I use this specific verb? Can you give me examples? Let me know and we can talk about that. Let's do the exercises. Now, vamos lá. Vamos lá. So, primeiro verbo, we are going to cover 15 verbs. I hope we have time to cover everything. So, the first one is dar. Dar means to give. This verb is interesting because it has this traditional meaning, but also it is used in many expressions. I have a couple of videos about this verb on this channel. You know that you can always look for videos. If you open the channel on the main page, you find like a search tool. You can type keywords there to look for other videos. I have over 400, maybe 500 videos on this channel already, so take a look. So that, how would you conjugate this here? I want you to do it before I give you the answer. See if you know it, and if you don't know it, it's fine. You can learn today. And you can also type in the chat just to practice. Eu, atenção especial aos meus amigos. I give special attention to my friends. How would you say that in Portuguese? Eu dou. Eu dou. I give. Eu dou. And você, how would you say for você? Você dá. Você dá. You give. Atenção especial aos seus amigos. Right? Dizer. Dizer means to say or to tell. Depends on the context. So, how would you conjugate for the first person? Eu sempre, a verdade. Eu sempre digo a verdade. Eu sempre digo a verdade. And how would be the conjugation for você, ele, ela? Gente, você... Você diz. Você diz. Você diz a verdade. Eu digo, você diz. Could mean say or tell, depending on the context. Ser. You know this one. This is the first verb that you usually learn when you start learning Portuguese. Eu, muito curioso. Eu sou muito curioso. Eu sou muito curioso. So, curioso, a man would say curioso and a woman would say curiosa, because this is an adjective that should agree in gender and number with the person. Eu sou muito curiosa. Ele é muito curioso. So, I just gave you the answer that I was going to ask. How to say você? Eu sou, você. Você é. Você é. Ou ele é, ela é. Nós somos, eles são. Verb estar, which also means to be, but now it's used for usually locations and temporary situations. Eu, feliz hoje. Eu estou feliz hoje. Eu estou feliz hoje. I recommend you repeat after me just to practice, repeating out loud. It helps you practice pronunciation and also helps you, retain information. Como você diria você? Eu estou. Você? Você está feliz hoje. Você está feliz hoje. So I'm talking about a feeling. That's why I'm using verb estar and not verb ser, because usually something that changes, right? Next one, fazer. Remember, it means to do or to make, but also it's used in many, many phrases and expressions. So in this case, in English it's very common to say I exercise every morning. In Portuguese, we could say eu me exercito, but it's very common to say I do exercises or I make exercises every morning. How to say that in Portuguese? Eu exercícios toda manhã. Eu faço. Eu faço exercícios toda manhã ou todas as manhãs. I could say the singular or the plural here, okay? I could say toda manhã, every morning, or todas as manhãs. Both ways are correct and very common in Portuguese. How to say for você? Oops, what happened? I lost. Okay. How to say for você? Você exercícios todas as manhãs. Você faz. Você faz exercícios. Let's move on to the next one. I don't know what happened with my document here. Ver. Ver means to see, right? It could also mean watch, but the traditional use of this verb it means see. Eu, meus amigos toda semana. Eu, how to say that? Vejo. Vejo, very irregular, right? Eu vejo. Eu vejo meus amigos toda semana. Eu vejo meus amigos toda semana. And how would you say that for você? Eu vejo você. Você vê. Você vê seus amigos toda semana. Vir. Be careful not to confuse these two. They are very similar, right? Ver means to see. Vir means to come, right? It's a movement from there to this place. Eu, todos os dias. Eu, aqui, here, todos os dias. How to say that in Portuguese? Eu venho. Eu venho aqui todos os dias. Eu venho aqui todos os dias. How would you say for você? Você, você vem. Be careful with the pronunciation here. Whenever you see a word ending in em, the pronunciation is em. We don't pronounce the m at the end of words. We say vem instead of vem, right? Vem. Você vem. Vem cá, come here. Vem. And then we have verb ir, very, very important. We use this all the time. We use in present tense. We used to talk about the future, right? I will or I'm going to. It's eu vou plus the main verb. So here, I just gave you the answer. Eu vou. Eu vou à academia 3 vezes por semana. I go to the gym. Eu vou à academia 3 vezes por semana. How do you say for você? Você? Eu vou, você? Você vai. 2 vowels. Remember to pronounce both vowels. Vai. Você vai à academia. And then we have verb ter, which we did see before. Eu, muitos livros em casa. Eu tenho muitos livros em casa. Verb ter is also used a lot in compound tenses, just like the verb have in English, right? Eu tenho muitos livros em casa. How do you say for você? Você tem. Tem. Again, attention to the pronunciation. It's not tem, it's tem. 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 See that I don't touch my lips. Tem. Tem. There's no N sound as well, but if it is really hard for you, you could add like a very soft N. Tem. Tem. And then we have verb trazer. Trazer means to bring something from another place to the place where you are. To bring something. Trazer. Eu sempre minha garrafa de água. Eu sempre trago. It's a weird verb, trazer, in my opinion, the conjugation, especially in the past tense, eu trouxe. It's very weird. Well, irregular verbs, they sometimes don't make much sense. Eu sempre trago minha garrafa de água. How about for você? Você? Eu trago, você? Traz. Similar to faz. Fazer, faz, trazer, traz. And then we have verb por. Por means to put, to place, depends on the context. For the first person, eu, açúcar no café. Eu ponho açúcar no café. Eu ponho açúcar no café. You could also use verb colocar, which is regular, eu coloco. But many people also use verb por. And você. Você, very nasal sound here. Você põe. Você põe. Almost done. Querer. Querer means to want. So it's usually used with another verb, right? Querer something. Eu viajar para o Brasil. Eu quero. So here in the first person, in the present tense, looks like a regular verb, right? This verb is more irregular in other tenses. And você quer. This is irregular, right? Irregular. Você quer. Eu quero, você quer. Poder. Eu te ajudar. Eu te ajudar. Eu posso te ajudar. Can I help you? Eu posso te ajudar. And then let's say that you are asking for help. How would you ask? Você me ajudar? Você pode me ajudar? We also have the conditional if you want to be extra polite, right? Você poderia me ajudar? Could you? So pode here would be can. Can you help me? Você pode me ajudar? And poderia sounds more polite. It's the conditional poderia. Você poderia me ajudar? Saber means to know. So eu, onde fica a biblioteca? I know where the library is. Eu sei onde fica a biblioteca. Você sabe. I want to finish this list and go to the comment section to see if you have any questions for me. Ler means to read. Eu, jornais toda manhã. Eu leio. Very irregular, right? Eu leio jornais pela manhã. And você lê. Você lê jornais pela manhã. Okay, we covered 15 verbs. I know it's a lot to remember and learn at once, so I recommend you download the worksheet. You see the link to download below the video. And I want to hear from you. Any comments, specific questions or comments? Let's see your question. Dennis, você vem means you come and you see. No, it means you come. Você vem. You see, it's vê. Você vê. Right? I'm gonna show you again here. Right? So the verb here, right? So here, eu vejo, I see, você vê. 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 It's not a nasal sound, it's e. E. You see. You see. Você vem. 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 I know it's very similar, but this one is not nasal and this one is nasal and the pronunciation is em. So você vê, you see. Você vem, you come. Muito bom. Oh, I'm glad you guys were doing the exercise in the chat. Yes, this video will stay on this channel so you can come back and watch it later and maybe do the exercises again together. Muito bom, muito bom. So the pronunciation of the singular and the plural is the same for the verb vir, right? Você vem, eles vêm. So the pronunciation does not change because of this little graphic accent. It's the same. Você vem, singular. Vocês, two people, vêm, same pronunciation. Vem, vem. Great question, Gabriela. Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed the class. How to remember, it's tricky. You just need a lot of practice because it's a lot to remember, right? Just go one by one. I recommend you focus on those that you need at the moment, right? Let's say you're doing some exercise or having some kind of interaction. Focus on what you need at that moment and forget the rest because it's just too much to learn at the same time. You can do exercises. You can write in a journal if you want. Try to find like a routine that is enjoyable and don't stress out about learning everything at once because it's just too much. Sim, in Portugal they do use the tu. I'm not teaching the tu today because it's not, especially the conjugation is not used much in Brazil. It is used a little bit in some regions, but I want to make your life easier. That's why I teach the conjugation for você, which is the most commonly used in Brazil. How often is nós used? It is used a lot, but in colloquial language, we use a gente much more often than nós. But I use both. I mix both a gente and nós. I use both conjugations. But if you find overwhelming to learn all the conjugations, you can use a gente in spoken language. It's totally fine and it's correct. So don't worry about using a gente. Muito obrigada pelas perguntas. Thank you so much for your questions. If you have a question that I have not answered, copy and paste because I don't want to go back. Sim, eu moro em upstate New York. I go to New York often because I'm getting a master's degree at Columbia University, but I live a little bit further north. There's a lot of snow, muita neve agora. Is a gente used in formal places? You know, this difference between formal and informal in Brazil is not really clear because Brazilians in general are really informal people. So we do have like a formal language and informal language, but maybe in formal places most people would just use informal language. So you can use a gente anywhere in Brazil. It's not wrong, it's correct. Just feel free to use a gente and the conjugation in the third person. You see nós being used in written form, right, in writing, and it really depends on the situation. But don't be afraid of using a gente in Brazil. It's very, very common. It's more common than nós, actually. This is a good exercise for you to do. Pay attention to Brazilians speaking. Like, look for content, watch movies and series and YouTube videos and see how they use these pronouns. It's a fun exercise for you to observe. And you see that there's a lot of, that's not a clear difference. People mix both and sometimes it's one, sometimes the other one in the same situation, right? There's not really a clear difference of when to use one or the other. Love your comments. Muito bom, gente. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm already past my time. Muito obrigada. Remember to download your worksheet so you can practice more. And the link is below the video. And I hope you enjoyed this class. And I'll see you soon in the next class. Um grande abraço e até a próxima. Tchau, tchau.